Today, we are going through the NBA draft. This is Ishan's forte, Ishan's domain. You're going to lead us through this. We're going to break down the lottery and then some little picks outside the lottery, our favorite picks, our grades on the picks, and just our overall thoughts and analysis on the picks. So, start us off, Ishan. Number one.
Number one, Minnesota took Anthony Edwards. I gave this an A. You could have gone with LaMelo Ball or Anthony Edwards, and I feel like I would have been fine with either one. But Anthony Edwards is definitely a better fit in the situation with D'Angelo Russell. He has confidence, he has a lot of offensive potential, and he has the potential to be a really good shooter despite his college shooting percentages. But he also has potential to be a great defender. He's strong, he's athletic, he's bouncy. And I think with Towns and D'Lo on the team, he's a perfect building block from everyone else in the draft.
Exactly, I couldn't agree with you more. And you just look at the situation they have. They're not going to take James Wiseman. They're not going to take LaMelo Ball. So that really just leaves you with one player available, and that's going to be Anthony Edwards. He's the most explosive offensive player in the draft. And as much as you'd love to see this team go defense, as much as it hurts me to see Josh Okogie get relegated one more spot on the depth chart, he's the best player available. Ideally, if there was like a big defensive wing, like maybe Okoro, if they were like 5 picks later, they traded back. But for where they're at, great value. I think this is going to be a good pick. You just worry about the team defensively going forward. So
yeah,
Jared Culver's got to step up.
Yeah, they have Okogie, they have Culver, and Edwards does have potential. But this team also ranked 24th in offensive efficiency. So getting a guy like Anthony Edwards who has a knack for scoring and has so many moves in his offensive bag, I think that's perfect.
Moving on to pick number 2, the Warriors. After tanking last year with all the injuries, they pick up James Wiseman at 2. And you might disagree with me, but I love this pick. I think this is an A+.
Wow, I actually had it as a B. I think there's potential. He's long, he's agile, he's athletic, and he could be one of the best rim protectors in the NBA. But in terms of defensive versatility and how he would fit in their system, I thought Okongwu would be a better fit. And I also just thought Okongwu was a better overall player, like even before the draft, no bias, none of that. But he has a very, very high ceiling, and despite his limited college production, he produced he had 19 points, 10 boards, and 3 blocks in his 3 games at Memphis. And so I know that's not completely indicative of his full potential, but I feel like he could have shown some flashes in college, averaging, let's say, 17 points, 8 boards, and 2.5 to 3 blocks.
I mean, I think this guy's really special, man. 7'1" with a 7'4" wingspan. I mean, you look at this guy, I mean, as a 7'1" big, he's incredibly coordinated for being 7'1". Looking at him, I think having him paired with this Golden State offense, especially without Klay Thompson, I think his presence is going to be greatly appreciated here because they've always played without a big. Like, that's been their whole thing. Like, they've had Bogut, they've had JaVale McGee. They haven't played with the big. Zaza Pachulia. I mean, you look at this team, they've never played with the big. And you've got a presence like him at 7'1", who still has the same mobility as all those young guys, all those smaller guys that they've had. I mean, Zaza's not a small guy, but like guys they've had in the past. I think James Wiseman's going to be incredible. I think he brings so much to this offense, and I think that defensively, he's going to be incredible for them. I just can't get. I think this is a great pick. I think offensive rebounds distributing back out to Steph. I think with Wiggins and Draymond, I'm really excited for this pick. I think this was a A+. My best player in the draft. I think he's got the most upside. And even if the Warriors aren't going to keep him long term, incredible asset to have. Incredible trade package. I hope they keep him because I really want to see Wiseman and Curry. I love this pick.
I will say one thing about Wiseman. In his rookie year, I expect him to be the traditional rebounding, rim protecting, interior finishing, run and jump type center. But I feel like over the next couple of years, if his shooting improves, which his mechanics look better and better every day. And if he starts to become more confident and flash his ball handling ability, he could just be a well-rounded type center. He could run fast breaks. He could fade out in pick and pop situations. So I think as time goes by, as Curry gets older, as Clay kind of recovers back from his injury, and their usage goes down a little bit, I think Wiseman can, add more aspects to his game that will make him a franchise cornerstone.
I mean, look who he's learning from shooting wise. He's been learning from Clay, Curry, and Kerr.
Yeah.
Those are three of the most mechanically sound shooters of all time. I think, and even if he has a Jackson Hayes type impact year one, which will be much better than Jackson Hayes was year one. Jackson was so raw.
Yeah.
But Jackson had a presence in the rim. Like, you could feel Jackson. Like, he might have had some positioning errors on defense, but you could feel Jackson when he was there. Like, he flashed. And Wiseman's a much better prospect than Hayes ever was. So I love this pick. Moving on to pick number 3, the Hornets take LaMelo Ball, one-on-one of the century, LeVar versus Jordan, GOAT versus GOAT.
I gotta see it. But I think this was more than picking the best player available, which they did, and I give this pick an A+. But when the Hawks selected Trae Young, they also took him for his identity. And I think LaMelo Ball is going to put Charlotte on the map. People are going to flock to Charlotte. It can be a more attractive free agent destination. Jersey sales will go up. It will give this team an identity, like how Trae Young gave Atlanta an identity. And so I'm excited for that. And he has an interesting shooting touch, but it's proven effective, and I think it will get fixed over time. Like, look at Lonzo's shooting touch, for example.
Okay,
that
it's
got
not
really,
great.
really fixed.
It's not good.
It's
still
not great,
good.
But it's so much better than what it was a couple years ago.
Yeah, anything better than a dumpster fire, Ishan.
Okay, fine. Well, not two dumpster fires, but yes. LaMelo Ball, his playmaking is there, his size is there, and if he kind of bulks up a little bit, we could see some defensive potential. I just think offensively, he's going to be a juggernaut, and he's going to be the franchise cornerstone for Charlotte. I'm really excited for this pick.
I like the pick a lot. It is best player available, in my opinion. He's a great playmaker. He has a good feel for the game, and he is a shooter. He's got that shooter mentality. I mean, he's matured a lot from his days at Chino Hill, just launching up 50-foot bombs every 2 seconds and then expire. He's really matured going overseas, Lithuania and Australia. But his basketball IQ is quite high. Still the Ball family. If you've ever watched Ball in the House, is it Ball in the Family? Ball in the House? Yeah. They're
Ball in the Family. Oh my God.
They're not the brightest bunch, are they?
Oh my God, I used to watch that on Instagram or Facebook.
Oh, they're so funny how they get those for easy geometry questions or geography questions so incredibly wrong.
No, there was one where they asked LaMelo to name the continents, and he said Nigeria. He said Africa, and then he said Nigeria.
That tells you so much about great basketball IQ, but he not the greatest otherwise. Great pick, great basketball player.
And then he said he had a 4.0.
I don't know what he's taking at Chino Hills and Spire, but we move. Going on to the 4th overall pick, we've got Patrick Williams going to the Bulls. I know you've got some thoughts on this pick, a little bit of reach, so let me hear you, Sean.
Yeah, it definitely caught me off guard when I heard Adam Silver call Patrick Williams' name, because I didn't even think he was the best player on FSU. I thought that was Devin Vassell, who got drafted later. But he is one of the youngest players in the draft, and I think he's the youngest player of all the first-round prospects. He has a lot of defensive potential. He's an athletic freak. But everyone calls him some 3-and-D prospect when he shot 32% from 3 on 1.7 attempts. So he didn't really shoot that much in college, so I don't know why everyone's calling him that. But he has potential because he shot 84% from the free throw line. From a fit perspective, I can see why they drafted him over guys like Halliburton or Okoro or Okongwu, because in terms of wings, he fits right there well with the team, and he can account for Lauri Markkanen's defense or Zach LaVine's defense. I still think Halliburton would have been better, but I can kind of understand this. I had this at a C, but I guess I'll give it a B minus.
Well, I'm not going to be as nice as you. I think it's a C. Personally, I think that they would have rather gotten a wing like a Caro. I mean, I know defense is probably going to be a huge – it's really important for this team because you look at Markkanen and Kobe. They've got a lot of players. They've got a lot of players in Chicago. But I think that what they need to go for is a more sound prospect. I kind of equate this to, like, the Cleveland Farrell pick. Like,
yeah,
we all kind of like Cleveland Farrell, but not at 4, at like 20-something. Not, I mean,
yeah. I thought they were going to take him with his other pick.
Yeah, but it's a really big reach for me. I think that if this was their guy and they wanted to get Patrick Williams, they should have traded down. I know the Pelicans were trying to trade up. They probably could have traded with the Pelicans. Pelicans had a lot of assets to give up. They were looking to get up into the top 6. So I think that they could have found better value at this pick. And then from a fit perspective, he's going to be sharing minutes with Markkanen at the 4 spot. So I just would rather have seen them go for a wing, a defensive wing.
Yeah. I think he has the ability to play small forward, but power forward is definitely his more natural position. And I just think that a guy like Okoro, who kind of has guaranteed perimeter defense help, will definitely be a better fit to this team. And Williams didn't ever start a game at FSU.
Exactly.
And that reminds me of when the Hawks took Marvin Williams, who never started a game at UNC at number 2, over Chris Paul and Darren Williams. And, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you get this a pick a B. I think this is like a D+. This pick's a D+ in my eyes.
I graded pretty high. I didn't have anyone lower than like a C-.
I think you gotta be harsh because there are busts. Like not every prospect is gonna do well.
Yeah. And especially in this draft class where there's a lot of uncertainty, and we kind of saw that. I guess I'll move it back to a C, but I think Patrick Williams was the quickest riser in the draft. He was projected to go like late first round. Once quarantine started, and then his workouts were really good. He started rising into the lottery. I think Chicago just wanted to guarantee that pick, and it definitely was a reach, but I don't know. If they traded down to like 10, I don't know. A team could have taken him. So
such an Oakland Raider type pick.
Yeah.
Just grabbing the guy they want.
Yeah.
Moving on to the aforementioned Isaac Okoro. The Cavs took him at 5, so I think this is a really good pick. I think from the players that they have, they've already got 2 young point guards. So getting a small forward to pair with them, a defensive small forward at that to pair with the 2 high motor Sexton and what's his name? I'm forgetting. Guy out of Vandy. Darius
Garland.
Yeah, Garland. They needed someone like Okoro. I think they really needed this guy. So I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, so if you look at Sexton and Garland, they are pretty good offensive players, but Sexton, in terms of player impact plus minus, ranks second to last in the NBA in defensive player impact plus minus, and Garland was like 22nd to last. So they are big negatives on defense. So getting a guy like Okoro definitely made sense. And I really like these Auburn prospects. I really like what Bruce Pearl has done to the program. He's producing a lot of NBA-ready prospects, and I think Sharif Cooper could follow in that if you know who he is. But I think Okoro's perimeter defense just makes him very NBA-ready, and he has the potential to shoot and even become a good passer. He could become a very good 3-and-D player or follow some kind of Jimmy Butler, Justice Winslow type path and not be the best shooter, but contribute in other aspects of the offense. And I honestly think his floor is Justice Winslow, and his ceiling is either a very good 3-and-D player or like a poor man's Jimmy Butler, which any franchise would love to take.
I know you're going to be happy with this pick. I know you're happy with this pick. At number 6, Onyeka to the Hawks. How happy are you? How many
I
pluses are
am
you putting into
very
this?
actually I didn't give this an A plus, I gave it an A. But yes, I really like this pick. I really like this pick because first of all, I feel like he was the best prospect available. I had him like third overall on my big board behind Anthony and LaMelo. And while Halliburton would have been a better fit alongside Trae Young, this dude has the potential to be the best rim protector in this draft and best post defender, but also like a top 5 perimeter defender. He has like Bam like potential. We all saw what Bam Adebayo did and how he was able to lead Miami to the finals. And Okongwu has that kind of potential. He's a very hardworking player. You know, he was in the spotlight for a couple of years because of LaMelo Ball, but he was kind of overshadowed by the Ball family and Eli Scott. But I really like this pick. Collins' future is uncertain because he wants a lot of money. Capella's been in trade talks, and I think he will be in trade talks until the deadline. And then I think Okongwu will finally get his minutes. But for now, he can sit back and learn behind Capella and Collins, who both bring really good aspects, like offensive and defensive aspects to their games. And then I also think Okongwu can be a lob threat. He's very athletic. He can be a lob threat for Trae Young. So there's so much that he brings to the table for one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. He'll be able to be the fix. He can be our savior defensively.
Yeah, I was going to ask how you thought his role would be impacted by Capella and Collins because, I mean, the Hawks do have a lot of big men. I mean, you'll argue the quality of them and the long-term viability of those two players, but right now they've got two great bigs. Well, not great, solid bigs.
Yeah. It's just that Collins wants like the De'Aaron Fox type money. And I don't know if he's earned it yet, and I don't know if Atlanta is willing to give him De'Aaron Fox type money. And Capella, I don't know how much he fits into our long-term plan because Okongwu could be a more versatile version of Capella. Instead of just sitting on the block or in the paint, he can fade out. He can be a ball handler. I don't know how good of a shooter he'll ever be, but he can even like run an offense to some extent. But I think both bigs are definitely expandable, and I think Okongwu will be that insurance, and he can just slide in and fill whatever role. Because he can be an undersized center like Bam Adebayo, or he's 6'9", you could put him at power forward.
Moving on to a very controversial player, very wide range in opinions on him. You got Killian Hayes from France going to the Detroit Pistons at 7. Where do you range on the spectrum? Are you a Killian Hayes lover? Or are you a Killian Hayes skeptic?
I'd say I'm in between. Like, I had him anywhere between 7 to 10, to be very honest with you. Like, The Ringer, for example, had him as their number 1 overall prospect, while ESPN and their mock draft had him at number 8 to the Knicks. So he's all over the place. Some people even have him outside of the lottery. But he's a natural playmaker. He has a good feel for the game and is a good off-ball defender, which is very good for a young guard like he is. He's not the most athletic, but could be that promising lead guard for Detroit. And then shooting-wise, he shot 29 from 3 on pretty high volume, but he also shot 87% from the free throw line on very high volume. So that shooting potential is there. And so like Okoro and then like a couple of other guys that we'll mention later on, the shooting is kind of the swing. It can turn him from a role player to a full-time starter and even a couple-time all-star.
I mean, you look at this guy, there's red flags, there's like green. It's very hard to get a read on this guy. This guy, 11 points, 5 assists, 59% true shooting. So some solid metrics in your and German Cup. And you look at these numbers compared to like college prospects. I mean, he looks solid. And then you look at his he's got great passing, great playmaking ability. But then he's just not explosive. He's not a very explosive player. And at the point guard position in today's NBA, you need an explosive player unless you're like some elite shooter or elite passer. And he's just not there yet. He
does have that playmaking potential. I will say that.
He does. He has that potential, but he's got some really stupid decisions. Like, I think he had like a 25% turnover percentage. Like, that's not going to cut it. And then shooting 29% from three. If he can't score one-on-one inside, then he can't shoot from the outside. He's got to improve his shooting ability. I just don't think Detroit's the right fit for him. I think that this guy could be a great player, but I think that there's a lot of red flags with his turnover volume and his shooting percentages, and I just don't see his defensive ability making up for that. He needs a lot of work.
I just feel like his playmaking is his best aspect. There are flaws there, but on the pick and roll, he does have solid IQ, but he also has a good feel for the game, and I feel like that was kind of apparent in the Euro Cup or German Cup where he won MVP of. I just think, there's a lot of uncertainty there. He could end up being a total bust, or he could be the best player in this class, and there's not really
easily.
And there's very little in between there.
And then I just don't think Detroit's the right fit.
Yeah. I just don't think Detroit's the right fit for anyone, to be honest.
I mean, Chris Wood and Sekou had pretty decent years last year in Detroit.
Yeah, but it's Detroit. It's like the Knicks. They'll just waste them.
That's exactly true. So, our prayers go out to Killian, who has already had his career ended by the Detroit Pistons.
Speaking of guys that have their career ended by a bad organization, the New York Knicks, Obi Toppin. When he was crying on draft night, I know for a fact he was crying because he got drafted by the Knicks.
It's not because he's from New York.
No. No, not at all. Not his hometown team. Not the fact that he was a 0-star recruit and now a lottery pick. None of that. It's because he got drafted by the Knicks.
Oh, wow. Poor. I love Obi Toppin.
Yeah, I did too.
I think he was a top 5 pick in my opinion. I really liked Obi Toppin.
I definitely had him higher than 8. I think I had him at like 6 or at 7, but like 6 on the big board because I just don't think he'd be a great fit in Atlanta. But as of right now, what we know about him is he has a high floor, probably the favorite for Rookie of the Year, and he's an exciting player. He's explosive. I think he led the NCAA in dunks, and he can contribute to winning basketball, given the fact that Dayton was a top 10 team in the country for a good bit.
You gotta feel bad for Dayton.
Yeah. For a good bit. I think a lot of teams this year could have made deep runs in March Madness, but nope. It definitely wasn't a big blue blood year like it normally is.
Yeah, which I was really excited for. In Atlanta, we were gonna have so much fun. COVID. Yeah, but we can't complain. I mean, safety's paramount, so glad they canceled it. But would have rather seen March Madness take place.
He did shoot 39% from 3, but that was on 2.6 attempts and also shot 70% from the line on 4.5 attempts.
Not bad.
So the shooting could translate, but that free throw percentage worries me a little bit. His defense is also an issue. Laterally, he's not quite as there yet. And for a team that ranked 23rd in defensive efficiency and 22nd in opponent true shooting, I feel like there were definitely better defensive options there. Like even Vassell or Halliburton, I feel like those guys would have made a bigger defensive impact. But offensively, he definitely has a lot of potential for a team that ranked 28th in offensive efficiency. And he has a very high floor, and I feel like he'll contribute right away.
And then, what do you make of this trio of RJ, Mitchell, and Obi? Like, how do you think these guys can mesh going forward under Tom Thibodeau?
Yeah, I think that if Obi, like a lot of the other players that we've been talking about, if Obi can space the floor and he has a good jump shot, I think that'll make such a big difference for them. Because you can have Mitchell in the paint, you'll have RJ, who's a natural slasher, just be slashing as he works on his jump shot, and Toppin will just be the reliable piece on the outside that can be a dominant finisher, but can also fade out on the outside. So you have three guys that are athletic and can finish, but if just one or two of them develops a jump shot, which I think Toppin has the best chance of doing, I think it will open up a lot of lanes on the offense, and it will open up a lot of opportunities for pick and rolls and RJ Barrett slashes to the rim, or Toppin corner threes, or Toppin fake corner three drives in and hits you with a windmill. So there's that.
Moving on to pick 9, a player just like Killian Hayes, probably a little more solid, a little more fundamentally solid, and less of a diverse opinion on him, but still very controversial. Deni Avdija going to the Wizards at 9.
People had him going as high as 4. I know a lot of people had him coming to Atlanta. I wasn't the highest on him because everyone was like, next Luka. But Luka played in the EuroLeague and was the MVP of the EuroLeague. Well, this dude played in the Greek B League, but he's still a very solid player. He is a good ball handler and a very good passer for his size and position. He's a good finisher, and he can operate well on the inside. He's proven that. And I think if he develops a jump shot, he can become a very, very well-rounded offensive player because the finishing is there, the passing is there. I think the shot creation will come over time as he adjusts to the NBA. But if he develops a shooting and just a little bit of perimeter defense, I think he'll just be a very well-rounded offensive player that can fit seamlessly into any offensive scheme.
I'll always say this, don't chase the outlier. Luka Doncic was a can't-miss, incredible prospect. Deni is not Luka. He will never be Luka. Luka was the MVP of the second hardest league in the world.
Did you want to go to?
So I think that what DC got at 9 is a great prospect. I really think that Deni Avdija can be a great player because, I mean, his skill set is really great. You just worry about the quality of competition he's going against because he's got a lot of experience for someone his age. Granted, you'll question, as you said, the quality of the competition, but he's got a well-rounded skill set, and he's a efficient finisher. Like, he's a finishing package, and he makes good reads and rotations. I think he's got a lot of attributes that would make him a good player. He's got a lot of the flags you're looking for. I think that put him in DC where you can take risks. You have Beal, you have Wall, you've got Hachimura, you've got Bertans. You can take a risk on him. And I think if Avdija, I mean, he's got a good floor. So I think that you slot him in here with his 55% shooting. I think he'll be a solid player this year. So I think it's a great pick. I'm going to give it a A-. I think.
I gave it a B just because I think there's a much higher chance of his jumper never being great than him becoming like a Luka type player with a somewhat reliable jumper. Just because he shot 56% from the free throw line on some pretty high volume in Europe, but he seems like a very hardworking player. I've heard a lot of great things about European prospects over the years and how hard they'll be able to work. If he's able to just fix his mechanics a little bit, then he can become at least somewhat respectable. But as of right now, I just don't see a lot of shooting coming in for his first couple years.
I mean, I was a lot lower on Avdija than the media was, since it was best player available. I mean, I think there was a lot of players that I would have taken over Deni at this spot, but
yeah,
I think that as a fit perspective, I do like this pick. So moving on, number 10, Jalen Smith to the Suns. Does this make them a better team?
I think so. I looked on a lot of draft grades. I have Bleacher Reports pulled up right now. They gave him a C minus. I think CBS gave him like a D. But
CBS gave it a B plus.
Oh wow, that's shocking. I gave it a B plus too. But I think right now, the most obvious comparison here is Jaren Jackson. He has a lot of shot blocking potential. He averaged like 2.5 blocks per game at Maryland, and his shooting numbers were also really good. I think my issue here is position. I don't know if he's a stretch 5 or a stretch 4. Because if he's a stretch 5, he's not going to get very minutes. He's not going to get very many minutes behind DeAndre Ayton, and you don't want your lottery pick playing 15, 20 minutes a game. But if he's a stretch 4, he will just seamlessly fit into the rotation at the position that they need the most, and he'll offer another dimension of shooting for Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton, who's not much of a shooter himself.
I mean, he was by far the best, whatever you want, best 4 available if he's going to play 4. You would have loved to see Obi Toppin fall to the Suns.
That would have been exciting. Oh my God.
That would have been the dream.
Chris Paul and Obi Toppin. Lob City.
That would have been so much fun, but our prayers were not answered, and the Knicks took him. So, overall, I'm not always the biggest fans of the let's play him where we need him type picks, but I think that he has the skills to do well. So I think I'll just give it a B.
Like, he definitely performed in college, 16 points, 11 rebounds, 75% from the line on 5 attempts, which is solid, but also 37% from 3 on 3 attempts, which I'll definitely take. And then also 2.4 blocks per game. That's just, I think he has that Jaren Jackson type potential where he can just slide in and be the guy that you can kick it out to shoot a 3. And then on the other end, he can become your primary shot blocker.
I mean, if he becomes slightly close to Jaren Jackson, the Suns are a great player. Because Jaren Jackson is awesome. We are both the presidents of the Jaren Jackson fan club.
Yeah.
But moving on, this is my favorite part of the draft. The last 4 picks of the lottery. I think
every team got at least an A- here.
One less than the others, obviously. Maybe a little bit biased there, but
okay. But there are 3 A+ and 1 A- because I still like what New Orleans did.
We'll get there. Starting off, Devin Vassell, Florida State to the Spurs. Unfair. This is unfair.
This is what happens when you put the Spurs in the lottery. Like, this is what happens. You end up getting arguably the best player available here, but he's the perfect fit. And in terms of player development, what other organization is better in terms of San Antonio? He has
the Lakers.
The Lakers and the 76ers. Trust me. Yeah.
Because anyone worse than the Lakers in the league at development? Like, it's like once you leave LA, you instantly become a better player.
Yeah. Watch Kuzma average like 20 a game if he gets traded.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
But I think Vassell was all defense in the ACC. I can check that, but
I think you're right.
But he's a great shooter. Oh, he wasn't all defense. He was just all ACC. But 41.5% from 3, 74% from the free throw line, which is a little questionable, but I still think that he will be a good 3-point shooter. Averaged 13 points and was the defensive leader for a very, very good FSU team that probably would have been like at least a 3 seed in March Madness, and probably, in my opinion, would have been at least an Elite 8 team, if not a Final 4 team. But I think a lot of teams like Phoenix, Detroit, and Chicago will regret not taking him. And San Antonio has a pretty solid history with 3-and-D players like Kawhi Leonard, and just with getting steals in the draft like Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. And I think Vassell will just follow that. That's an A-plus pick. I think that's an A-plus pick. Bleacher Report, ESPN, CBS all gave this pick at least
give it an A. So
yeah, at least an A. And there's a valid reason why. I feel like I could be the president of the Devin Vassell fan club. And yeah.
I mean, you already love the entire Spurs lineup.
Yeah. And let's not forget about Trey Jones, but we can talk about that later.
We'll get to that. So yeah. Value, fit,
potential.
Player, great pick.
It's just everything.
Here's my least favorite pick in the draft, purely because I'm a Pelicans fan. But my favorite player in the draft, not best, my favorite player. We got Tyrese Halliburton.
I think he was my favorite player too. Halliburton was the first player. So Halliburton was the first player that I kind of took a look at in depth before the draft. I think I shared my thoughts with you a while ago on some Google spreadsheet, but
yeah,
he's a great 3-point shooter, great leader, great facilitator, great playmaker. He'll be able to fit anywhere. And I feel like pretty much every team from Chicago onwards could have made a case at taking Halliburton, and I would have given it at least a B. That's how good Halliburton is, and that's how versatile he is. He can play the 1 or the 2. He can play off ball as a shooter. He can play on ball as a facilitator. He's just an all-around guard. He's long. He can like read passing lanes and intercept them, and he can just go back for a transition. He'll be able to play behind Fox, but he'll also be able to play with Fox, kind of fading out and taking threes. He's just going to be a great complimentary pick, and now that Buddy Hield's future with Sacramento is pretty much done for, he's the perfect guy to replace him, and he's going to offer so much more than Buddy Hield.
That's what I was going to say. Is this spell the end for Buddy Hield in Sacramento?
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure he's won it out for a while now, and it's just a matter of when at this point.
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
Just thinking about this pick, they didn't need him.
No.
They got him. And as a Pelicans fan, just seeing the guy you want get so close to you, that it hurts. But especially to a team that you're going to be competing with in the future. So
I was just going to pull up his stats for a second. I just wanted to show you this.
Yeah, but while you're doing that, all I have to say about Hallie is that he's great at everything. Like,
yeah,
he doesn't have a flaw that's glaring. And from a prospect, that's the perfect prospect. The fact that he fell to 12, like,
that's beyond me, to be very honest with you.
This is going to be like I don't want to say it like that, but this is going to be like a Paul George, Donovan Mitchell, Kawhi Leonard type steal.
Yeah, without a doubt.
This is going to be the pick of the draft. Love this pick. I'm going to give it an A+, add 3 A's, and then add 2 more, just to make sure that you know that this is the best pick in the draft.
This is, definitely the best pick in the draft. He's a plus on offense. He had a box plus minus of 8, which is very, very, very high. He had a defensive box plus minus of 3.7, which is very solid, and an overall box plus minus of 11.6, which has to be one of the best in the country. I don't have the rankings pulled up, but that's got to be up there. Double-digit box plus minus is very, very good because that shows the impact of a player compared to someone of league average or conference average. And then 15 points, which in college is very good. 7 assists, 6 rebounds, 2.5 steals, and then 50, 40, and 82. Like, and that's on good volume. 42% from 3 on 5.6 attempts.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
And Sacramento always gets crapped on for their drafting, especially in the early 2000s, but they had a home run here.
And then next pick, 13, the Pelicans. There was one name I wanted to hear more than anything in the world. It's not Kira Lewis. It was Aaron Nesmith. I wanted Pelicans.
Yeah.
When I go into a draft, the two things I look for is defense and shooting, because those are the two hardest things to coach.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about mechanics and about heart. Those are what those two things are about. I love Nesmith. Pelicans need shooting. JJ Redick is 37 now. I mean, he's a top shooter in the league, especially now that he plays hurt. The things that JJ does, he will be off 1 foot, spinning around in 360, and it'll just like laser beam into the hoop. It is crazy what he does. Like, to see him shoot the ball like that is incredible. And the fact that seeing him and Lonzo on the same team is just so funny to watch. You'll just see Lonzo chuck up a 3 on a transition, and you'll just be like, pain. And then you'll see with like 2 seconds left the shot clock, JJ's toss up some Hail Mary, but it's not even a Hail Mary because it's gonna go in. It's crazy. But they picked Kira Lewis Jr. out of Alabama.
I didn't.
I'm not as familiar with the prospect as you are. Walk me through this pick. Tell me why I should be happy as a Pelicans fan.
Look, I'm not gonna say I'm familiar with him either. I'm not too familiar with him. Like, I was a lot more familiar with Nesmith, Halliburton, Vassell, Okongwu, Okoro, guys like that. But Lewis was definitely a quicker riser. I remember earlier on in the season, he was at like the 20 range, and then people had him going into the lottery, which is exactly what happened. He's an exciting player, and he is an above-average shooter. He shot 37% from 3 on 5 attempts, which is pretty solid, and 18.5.
On that though.
Yeah, 18.5 points, and I think we've mentioned free throw percentage a lot because that is indicative of how good a shooter. Like, Markelle and Lonzo both shot above 40% from 3, but also below 70% from the free throw line. And Kira Lewis shot 80% from the line on some pretty good volume too, 4.2 attempts. So the shooting is definitely there. I see him as like a De'Aaron Fox type player, given how fast he is, given how quick he is. But the thing that I really want to see him improve on is his assist-to-turnover ratio. Because Fox is a very good playmaker, especially in the open court. And I think Kira Lewis has that ability too. He just needs to cut down on his turnovers and improve his assist, which will definitely happen with guys like Zion Williamson or Jackson Hayes or JJ Redick to pass to. And I think that it'll be fun to see him and Zion Williamson. I can just imagine Lewis gets a steal, him and Zion are sprinting down the court. He chucks it somewhere.
Zion more hobbling, but
okay. But yes,
he'll be down there quick.
Yeah, he'll be down there pretty quickly. Kira Lewis throws it somewhere on the backboard. Zion does some 360 windmill that should be in a dunk contest. So he's an exciting player, and I think with the team that's been put around him, Ingram, Zion, Redick, he'll have a lot of options to pass to, either in the pick and roll, in a lob duo, or just kicking it out. So I feel like you should be somewhat excited about this.
What does it say about your team that your longest tenured player is Zion Williamson?
That just means that the team
he's played 23 games.
They make a lot of moves, number one. But didn't the Anthony Davis trade happen before?
Oh, it did. It did.
Oh, you know what it is? It takes I think at the end of June, the NBA has to like process and approve the trade. And since that was after the draft, that technically makes him the longest tenured player. Okay. But this just means that the team is young. They're in a process of changing. They have a new identity that they're building around, which is Zion Williamson. And this just means that they're aware that they need to make the right moves to get to the next level. And I think they're making the right moves.
So here's my final couple comments on the pick. So there was only really one player I wanted ahead of Kira, because I heard a lot of good things from my Pelicans base. That was the player they wanted to pick at 13. It was only Nesmith I really wanted ahead of him. just because of that shooting ability. You really can't go wrong with a shooter.
Yeah, you can.
So that's the only player I wanted ahead of him. So it's not really that disappointing, but just having the two players that you wanted go on either side to book in your pick. It's like the Saints picking Marshawn Lattimore in between Deshaun Watson and Pat Mahomes. Like, love Marshawn, not Deshaun or Pat Mahomes. Still an incredible pick.
But you guys have Breeze.
No. I'll take Pat Mahomes any day over anyone.
Yeah, that's true.
You've heard how high I was on Pat. I love Pat.
Yeah, you were very high on Pat.
I could be as wrong as I want on any pick. Like Justin Herbert, I couldn't have been more wrong on him. And we'll get to that later and when we do NFL stuff. But as long as you're right on one person that you could be happy about, you could hang your hat on every day and say, I got that right. I
was right on Giannis, and my dad will never stop hearing about it. Because I told him about Giannis in like 2015, 2016. This dude has potential. If the Bucks give him more of a chance, he could be an MVP type player. He's a 2-time MVP.
Yeah, but the best thing is that I said that on camera too. I will never live that down. But how would you compare Lewis as a prospect compared to Sexton? Because what I've seen, a lot of speed, same college, same position, same skill set. Who's better prospect?
I think that he can be a better defender than Sexton.
I hope so.
And Sexton was put in a much worse situation, which has kind of exposed the flaws in his game. But with Lewis, when you have so many guys that can score the ball that you can distribute to, that helps a lot. And when you have guys like Alexander Walker, Lonzo Ball, and Brandon Ingram, who Stan Van Gundy are all thinking about playing at point guard.
How is that going to work? How is that 2-point guard system going to work?
Yeah, I'm not too sure yet. The fact that Ingram might get point guard minutes is kind of surprising. But
I love it.
Kyra Lewis will definitely have a lot of time to develop instead of being rushed into a bad situation. And I don't think he'll ever be as good of a shooter as Colin Sexton is, because Sexton's a pretty solid shooter. But I think he'll be a better playmaker and better defender.
Yeah, I at least like to see that Stan has ideas that he wants to try out.
Stan's creative.
He's actually trying something, and that's not something that's happened in New Orleans since we had Monty Williams. May he, God, that was just pain. I want Monty back. But past the past. Moving on is the winners of every draft class. It's the Celtics at 14. Do they miss?
They don't.
So I think we've already talked enough about Naismith. Great shooter. It will be a perfect lineup. You have Naismith, and you have our best friend, the walking bucket himself.
Taco Fall?
Oh, no, not
Oh, Carson
him.
Edwards. Oh. Man, I'm just thinking, you could have Kemba, Jalen, Naismith, Tatum, and
Taco.
whoever's that. Yeah, Taco. Sure, Taco. But, that's 4 really solid shooters, especially Kemba, who has proven to be a good shooter. Tatum's a good shooter. Brown is steadily improving and is becoming a good shooter himself. And then Naismith, who averaged 23 points a game on 50% from 3 on 8 attempts. But he also has a 6'10" wingspan and defensive potential.
He's so good. How did you pass up on him?
Brad Stevens, his prayers have been answered. You gave him the perfect player.
I think now that they don't have to worry about Gordon Hayward, it gives him minutes. This will free up the team a lot.
Well, Gordon Hayward's in Charlotte now.
Yeah, so they don't have to worry about him anymore. So I think the problem is what are they do with clearly not Taco. He's on a 2-way deal. I've got no idea what they're going to do there. Are they going to move Washington down there?
Washington?
Who's the guy that drafted last year at Tennessee?
Oh, Grant Williams, and
Grant Williams.
and there's Robert Williams from A&M a couple of years ago, who was a steal in himself.
I'm getting my players mixed up.
Yeah, they got rid of Canner, who probably would have started at the 5.
Yeah, this team is
But they could
tough.
have like a really, really undersized lineup where you have Neesmith, Jalen, Jason, and Kemba, and then you throw in Marcus Smart. That'll kind of be like the death lineup.
They've got so many guards. Like Kimba, Brown, Edwards. I mean, you could call Neesmith a guard. Smart, you can call him a guard.
Yeah.
We'll just go with wings and points. Tatum.
Yeah.
Who's the guy that drafted last year out of Indiana?
Indiana.
14.
Oh, Langford.
Romeo
Langford.
This guy's got so many players.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I trust Brad Stevens, so they'll get the job done. A plus?
A plus. It's just at this point, it's finals or bust. Like, they've been projected to be the best team in the East and go to the finals for the last 2 years now.
I thought they beat the team last year.
I thought they would too.
No, you did.
I thought Toronto. Okay, I thought Toronto.
You were Toronto. Get out of here.
Okay, but I thought once they beat Toronto, I'm like, okay, they'll probably beat Miami.
Once they beat my conference final prediction.
Yeah. All right. Okay, we'll argue with that. We'll argue about that later. But that was a good series.
I knew the Niners were gonna make it to the finals. All right, so moving on, we're outside the lottery now. What are your highlights outside the lottery? Just give us a little breakdown.
So I guess we'll go right outside. 15, Cole Anthony. He was the number 2 or number 3 player out of high school coming into UNC, and UNC had a stacked recruiting class this year. Armando Bacot, a couple other guys, and they were supposed to be at least a top 5 team in the country. That did not happen at all.
11.
Yeah, that was great. I think UNC's football team was better.
They do. They got a great quarterback.
Yeah, Sam Howell, I think.
Yep, exactly.
Mm-hmm. But in here, there are definitely better players, definitely better guards available. But I think Orlando is trying to take a risk here. They've been stuck in no man's land forever. Mm-hmm. And they're just trying to get a boom or bust prospect because the boom would at least make them more attractive for a free agent destination. He could pair with Vucevic nicely. He could pair with Jonathan Isaac. But he could also be a total bust, and you have to rely on Markelle Fultz again. So there's that. I don't think that's bad.
Not the worst situation you could have.
No.
You've got 2 boomer bust point guard prospects. And we've already probably seen one of them's probably a bust. It is. But he's got potential. Markelle's got potential. We're never going to deny that. But looking less likely every day that's going to reach that.
Yeah. Cole Anthony also had a partially torn meniscus, which is a very scary injury if it was further torn, and it did require surgery. Zion's a different breed. He went to Duke. He's cool. But that's a scary injury. We saw Derrick Rose suffer from it. We've seen some other guys suffer from it, and that required surgery, so that definitely tanked his draft stock. But he needs to improve on his passing. He needs to improve on his shot selection. He was a solid 3-point shooter, but also 75% from the line. I think if he refines his offensive game a little bit and kind of stops going from a willy-nilly athletic prospect to a guy who can pass, who can shoot a little bit, but also play with a high IQ and play smartly, then he will be, in my opinion, a boom. But he could also just be a total bust and shoot 80 shots a game and make 4.
Yeah, he can do that. Next pick, is it going to be the Thunder, or are we going on to the Mavs?
Let's take this Pokusevski guy, and I think for now we'll just call him Poku.
I think we have to.
Yeah. I gave this pick a B+, but I might even I might even bump it up to like an A minus because if you look at the direction the Thunder are going in, they're in it for the
Love
long
it.
term. And Pokusevski is that long term prospect. His passing and shooting ability was definitely there in Europe, but he is like extremely skinny, but also really tall, and he doesn't have the strength or body to be in the NBA yet. So give him a year or two to bulk up, get adjusted to the NBA's athleticism and size and strength, and then if he retains his shooting and passing ability, that's great. He's a long-term player with tremendous upside, and he did have interior finishing and defense issues, but his size will definitely help with that because he's tall, he's lanky, he has a good frame. He just needs to bulk up and be less skinny.
Here's my problem with the Thunder's direction right now. That team was great last year, but they lost everyone they had besides Shaq pretty much. Gallo's
Yeah.
gone, Adams is gone, Paul is gone. How is Shai gonna want out before this team can reach their potential? If the results aren't going their way.
That's definitely a tough question because I know guys like Trae Young would have definitely wanted out, but I think that is a very tough question. I
I
honestly
think it's
hope,
a genuine concern for the team.
yeah, because you can't just go from a 5 seed in the West to selling just like that without really consulting your star player that you're gonna retain. But I think and I hope Shea is just gonna tough it out for the next 2 or 3 years. He could get a guy like Jalen Green or Scotty Barnes next year. They have cap space to sign free agents. And I think they just want to reset after the whole Durant Westbrook era. And I think they just want to kind of build a new team, a new brand, and get a new identity behind Shea Gilgeous.
And I can never get my head behind Billy Donovan.
Do you not?
Why did they go with Mark? How do you ever pronounce his last name?
Oh yeah.
Dagnall?
Yeah, that was definitely out of all the moves. I kind of expected a little bit of selling, but it's kind of like why the Hawks parted ways with Budenholzer, getting a good coach who was the coach of the year, I believe, off of a bad team and putting him in a better situation. I think it's more for the sake of the coach.
Yeah, but he went to the Bulls.
But the Bulls have potential.
But they're the Bulls.
They are the Bulls.
Like he could have gone to the Pelicans. He could have gone to the Sixers. He could have gone to the Clippers. He could have gone. He went to the Bulls. Like it's not for the coach's sake if you go to the Bulls. At least
Budenholzer went to the Bucks, right?
Like the Bucks had an MVP.
The Bulls have Zach LaVine.
Who wants out? Well, the Thunder's a topic for another day. We'll move on to the next pick. You want to talk about Green, or are we going to go down to Achua? Or Bay, Sheik Bay.
Let's just go Green Bay Achua. Green Bay.
But then we'll probably head down to Hampton after that.
Yeah.
All right. Starts off with Josh Green.
Josh Green was one of the more hyped up recruits coming out of high school. He played on that IMG team that was just totally stacked. And then he went to Arizona with Mannion, and there was a lot of hype going in. I wouldn't necessarily say I didn't think he was going to be like a player of the year type guy, but he kind of underwhelmed in some aspects.
Yeah,
but one aspect that he didn't underwhelm in was defense. He was all Pac-12 in defense, and I think that with Luka there, he'll be able to. Luka's not a bad defender by any means.
He's just not a plus defender.
But he's not a plus. I think Green will definitely help that. And I know this is getting really redundant. I sound like a broken record, but if he improves his 3-point shooting, or if it gets to like a serviceable level, that's gonna help Dallas so much. But at the same time, Green is very explosive, and Luka is a very good passer. And I think that we'll see a lot of dunking from Josh Green. We'll see a lot of plays where Josh Green can cut to the basket and Luka will give him a very nice pass that he can finish with, because he is a pretty solid finisher.
I will always say this to the player: defense first. When you look at a player, you're going to look at defense first.
Mm-hmm.
Josh has got defense. He's got the athleticism, and he's got the potential. You can coach the offense into him. You've got the playmakers around him to get good offense out of him. You've got Porzingis, you've got Doncic, you've got an MVP candidate. I'd vote for Doncic for MVP this year. I think that's going to be the MVP. Doncic is incredible. You get a good defender, you can develop him. You can become a good offensive player.
He's good on ball. He's good off ball. He knows where the ball is at all times. He can jump passing lanes. He's bouncing.
I think this is an A.
He can even block shots. I gave it a B+, but yeah, I can see why it's an A.
I think it could be. I think it's an A. Saddiq Bey. We're going to the Pistons.
Yeah, once again, I just feel bad for Saddiq Bey because I like him so much. I thought he was actually going to go to San Antonio, but San Antonio got Vassell, which is an absolute steal. But Bey was a 40+% three-point shooter. He was a very good defender, and he was able to rotate through guards and forwards. He's not the most laterally quick, but he can get in front of his opponent, kind of shadow them, and he has a pretty big frame, so he can definitely alter some shots too. I think Bey gives me very like the typical Villanova vibes. When you draft a player from Villanova, you're not expecting a dude with a ceiling that's like sky high. You're not expecting a dude that's going to be like a multiple-time All-NBA player. You're getting a role player that can contribute at a high level to a championship contender. They're good three-point shooters. They're good defenders. Look at guys like Mikal Bridges. And every once in a while, you get a guy like Kyle Lowry who is very well-rounded and has multiple dimensions to his game. And that does become a multiple-time All-Star. But Villanova guys I can always count on to be at least a serviceable role player. And I think Bey's floor is a role player, and his ceiling is a solid contributor or starter to a championship-level team.
It could have happened. The Clippers had this pick.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing about it, is that he could have been in the perfect spot.
Yeah, I would have taken Saddiq Bey over Luke Kennard.
I would have, too. I don't know why the Clippers took Luke Kennard.
Yeah.
Beats me. But A+ pick time for Precious Achiuwa?
At least an A. Oh, Saddiq Bey was an A+, by the way.
But, right.
So when you look at Miami's interior defense, the first name that comes to mind is obviously Bam Adebayo, right? He is just insane. I love Bam, and I think you do too.
I love Bam. I had him on my fantasy team last year.
That's very helpful. But then looking outside of Miami's interior, looking outside of Bam, their big men are Myers Leonard and Kelly Olynyk. I just don't think a dude named Kelly is going to block 2.5 shots a game. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen.
Just look at Kelly, man.
Yeah. So uninspirational.
So I think great pick.
Yeah, Achiuwa is a versatile defender. He could be as versatile as Okongwu even, but he'll add post defense and energy to a team that needs post defense and energy. He's not the best shooter, but he is a good rim runner. He'll be able to run the pick and roll with Goran, and his college production was there. He was, what conference is Memphis in? AAC?
It's the AAC, American Conference.
Yeah, AAC Player of the Year, and that was as a freshman. So
I mean, he wouldn't have been if we got to see Wiseman, but you know.
Yeah, but he's still a very good player, and I think he fits in perfectly with Miami, with their needs, and a player that kind of fits with their culture, a greedy dog type player.
Yeah, I think it's a great pick, great fit for a position of need, great value. I think it's an A+ pick for Precious Achiuwa. He would have really loved to see Hardaway be able to use his recruiting skills and like actually see them on the court together. But
Yeah.
it wasn't to be. But we got to see Achua, and Achua looks great. I love this pick. The rich get richer, you could say.
Yeah. That's what happens when you have a team like Miami at pick number 20.
All right, next pick, Thunder. Sixers are a mess. We'll skip them. And then some strange picks. Bolsonaro out of Barcelona. But I think the next one we want to talk about is RJ Hampton. So, draft day. You know the pick's going to the Nuggets. You see it's RJ Hampton. You're like, all right. I would have loved to see the Pelicans get them because, high upside player, top 5 prospect coming into the year, would be perfect for the Pelicans. I would have loved to see it, but we just drafted Kira. So, probably.
6'5" scorer.
I mean, if you gave me the choice of Kira at 13 or RJ at 24, I'd take an RJ every day.
Mm-hmm. I would too.
And then you found out that you're getting a 2023 lottery protected pick from the Nuggets. You're like, oh, wow. So we gave up a top 5 prospect last year for nothing? All right, that's cool. But then there's another plot twist. It turns out that you didn't have that pick, and the Thunder had that pick, and you got Steven Adams. So it's like we almost got fleeced, and it turns out we didn't get fleeced. So the Pelicans never had the pick, it turns out. So I'm not mad about it. So it was a very roller coaster of emotion this pick was.
That's good, though. At least you got Steven Adams in return, which is definitely a big need for you guys.
Yeah,
but
I think ultimately that we won.
Yeah. RJ Hampton was the number 5 overall prospect in the class of 2020, like at that Jalen Green, Evan Mobley type level. And then he reclassified, went to the NBL, followed LaMelo Ball, and he didn't play amazingly there. 8.8 points, 2.4 assists, and effective field goal percentage of 45.9, and a very worrisome free throw percentage of 67.9, which effective field goal percentage doesn't really include. But he is athletic, he's shifty, he's 6'5", and given the amount of wing depth that Denver has, he'll definitely have some time to develop behind guys like Porter, Will Barton, Murray, Gary Harris. So he'll definitely have time to develop, and I think he'll be really good in the long term. He's athletic, he has defensive potential, he has the potential to be a good playmaker, he can drive to the rim, and he can also even become a good interior finisher.
I'm going to give this pick an A+.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Because value. The value on this pick is ridiculous. 1, to get him at 24 is a steal. 2, to get him for a 2023 first-round lottery-protected pick is absurd.
Yeah.
That pick is going to be worse than 24 because the Nuggets are a great team with great young talent. Their 2 best players are still, under 26, 27? Jamal and Jokic are under 27.
Yeah, I know Jokic is like 26, and Jamal's younger than him.
So they're both under 26. You've got MPJ, you've got Bull. Now you add RJ Hampton. You already have solid role players. This team has a great future. So
it does.
Great value, great player, great potential, A+ pick. Any other notable picks in the first round? Maclay Flynn or Desmond Bane?
I was gonna go with Desmond Bane. He's a really good shooter.
Flynn first or no?
Oh, well, yeah, Flynn to Toronto I liked, but Bane was like the A+, the last A+ in my opinion. He will be a great shooter. He was at TCU, and he'll be a very good role player at the minimum. And if you just look at the team that he went to, Memphis, and you look at the fact that they have Brandon Clark, John Morant, Jaren Jackson, Valanciunas, Dylan Brooks, he's like the perfect fit there. I think once Memphis kind of breaks through and becomes the contender that we all see them to be, he could start or at least be like the 6th or 7th man and contribute at a very high level. So I think this is a really good pick.
Couldn't agree with you more there. To end it up, let's go fast 4 picks from the second round that you love.
So I'll look at second round and undrafted players because there are definitely a couple undrafted players that I really liked. Cassius Winston from Michigan State. He should have been a first round player. He was definitely a first round talent in my opinion. Great offensive initiator. Cassius Stanley, who is the bounciest guy that Duke University has ever seen, and that is also no. He has the Duke vertical record.
Oh, he broke Zion. All right.
He broke Zion and RJ's record.
I thought Zion was 45. I didn't know that was possible to break 45.
I think at Duke, I don't think it was 45. It was like 40s. It was like low 40s, and then Stanley broke the Duke record. But yes, Cassius Stanley. He's very bouncy.
I love that.
He's very bouncy. And I think in Indiana, with Oladipo being gone soon,
don't say that.
I don't know if okay, there's a chance that he's gone soon. And he'll be able to fit it. He'll be able to fill in that role eventually, become the 3-and-D player that we all see him to be. And then let's see.
What did you make of the Vernon Carey pick?
He was picked 32nd to Charlotte. His style of play is a little bit outdated, kind of like Isaiah Stewart's style of play is a little outdated, but he produced in college. He'll be a great interior option for LaMelo Ball, and I really like this pick. He produced a lot in college. I think he was he Duke's leading scorer? I want to say he was. Because I know he averaged at least above 17 points a game.
I can check real quick for you.
Yeah. But meanwhile, while you're checking, he was a great interior scorer, a good rebounder. Laterally on defense and footwork-wise, I don't know how great he'll be. But other than that, I think that he'll just be a great offensive big to complement LaMelo Ball.
He was 18 a game.
18 a game. Wow. And then the pick that I like the most out of the whole second round, well, there were two. I like Tyrell Terry at 31.
I'm about to talk about that pick. That's a great pick.
You can talk about that, but first I'll talk about Trey Jones. I think I'm a little biased because when I went to Duke a couple of years ago for a summer camp, I met Trey Jones, Zion, RJ, and Cam Reddish. And Trey Jones was actually the one, we were like in the dining hall. They were eating lunch in their own private area. It was like nice, fancy leather seating, better food than everyone else. And Duke has good food. But Trey Jones called me over to this fancy area, and he's like, yo, you want to get a picture with us? Because I've seen you, I saw you take a picture from over there. I'm like, yeah, sure, definitely. Thank you so much. He's just a really nice guy. And that made me like him a lot.
That's really cool, man.
And there's good reason to like him when you're the ACC Player of the Year and the ACC Defensive Player of the Year as a point guard.
My favorite five. I think my favorite five picks. Obviously, I am probably the most biased person. I think Carey, Jones, and Cassius were great picks.
Yeah,
I thought they were all first. I thought they were all first rounders in my opinion.
I did too.
So all of them in the second round, all of you guys get an A+. Then you got Cassius Winston, and Tyrell Terry. Those are just five incredible second round picks. I love every one of those picks.
The Ringer had Tyrell Terry as their 8th overall prospect.
I know.
Above Okoro, Toppin, Okongwu, Halliburton.
Tyrell was a great pick because he's just silky. He's silky smooth.
He gives me CJ McCollum vibes.
So look at 89 from the free throw line.
And 40% from 3.
I mean, he's undersized though.
Yeah.
But who cares? He's a shooter. So I think that my only problem with those picks I said, I just don't know how Vernon Carey is going to do in Charlotte. I think it could be really high upside though.
Yeah.
Charlotte had two really good picks. They've already got Devontae Graham. They've already got PJ Washington. That's how I got it right. I think those are some really good picks. I think there were a lot of steals we had in this draft class because of the uncertainty about this shortened season, about the long break that they had. So, overall, I thought there was a lot of steals we had, but this is going to be a very boomer bust draft class.
Oh, we did forget 2 big steals.
Oh, undrafted. I know this is your forte. I know you've been looking for this all
Arguably
day.
the 2 best players in college basketball last year, Marcus Howard and Miles Powell, went undrafted. And I know they're not NBA-ready prospects, they're undersized, but they're just buckets. Like, they're lights-out buckets.
Look at
And they
Edwards
have
last year.
Yeah, look at Carson Edwards. Like, man, I was really sad when Miles Powell went undrafted. He put in so much work to get to where he was, and he led Seton Hall to a very good record. And I think they were top 10 for a while, too.
They were.
So, luckily, he got signed, like, right after draft night, but unfortunately, he got signed to the Knicks.
Yeah. So here's my thoughts. Players like Carson Edwards, who heavily depend on being seen at a national level at March Madness, are going to go unnoticed, are going to get disrespected, which is so confusing for me. But then why all the Duke players and the Cassiuses both went so low? Because they already had the national attention. They already had bodies of work. So I think it's just really sad to see Powell just not get a chance. Because I think if he was given a March Madness, he would have been awesome. I think that those players, like Ja Morant, the players that are not nationally recognized or at a small program, rely heavily on showing their body of work against a quote-unquote great college team. Because when you're scoring 20 points against who are those really bad teams in the Big East? Like, St. John. Like, you're scoring 30 points against St. John. No one's going to care.
Yeah.
So, but when you score 30 points against Duke, that's when it gets real. That's when it gets like, oh, wow, this guy's actually can play basketball. So I think that a lot of guys aren't going to get the chance this year that they would have been afforded. And then it's up to the team to see how they develop, because you've seen guys like Trayvon Bluier who are good college players, but still just didn't get the shot at the NBA level. So this is all going to be on the organization, and I just died to you trust the Knicks. Like, they've done well with undrafted guys. So, I mean, give them credit. So, overall, good draft class.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, give me the 2 big winners and the 2 big losers of this draft class. It could be a player or a team.
I guess a loser would be Obi Toppin. I don't know how his potential is going to be maximized on the Knicks.
I knew it was coming.
And I guess I'll put Chicago in as a loser because they could have selected guys like Avdia or Halliburton instead of Patrick Williams. In terms of winners, I'll have to say Charlotte. They got their identity. They got LaMelo Ball, but they also had a great second-round draft pick in Vernon Carey. And then, you know what? I'm not going to say Atlanta. I'm not going to say Minnesota. I'm not going to say Detroit because they all drafted well. I'm going to say San Antonio.
Yeah, I knew it was coming.
Yeah. It's two A pluses. In my opinion, the biggest second-round steal, and then one of the biggest first-round steals in Vassell. I think they really nailed it. And given the fact that it's San Antonio and they can develop their players so well, I think they'll fit into the rotation nicely.
Yeah.
And especially with Patty Mills' future being uncertain, Trey Jones will get more playing time than a lot of other second-round picks.
I'm going to have to go with the Kings.
Yeah.
You get the best pick in the draft. And then Ramsey in the second round at Texas Tech is not a bad pick either.
He went to the Kings?
Yeah, he did.
Wow, he was initially a top 20 prospect for a while.
43. So I thought the Kings are a huge winner. My second winner is going to be the Spurs as well. Losers. I'm gonna go. Big loser is gonna be Killian Hayes. I think that's the biggest loser of the draft because he needed the right fit and he didn't get it. And then obviously my second one's gonna be the Bulls. So some similarities there. I think we're in pretty good agreement on a lot of the players. I think we're relatively similar in evaluation.
Mm-hmm. You're definitely a little harsher than I am.
Yeah, because I think that when you're too nice on everyone, then it doesn't mean as much. I think you kind of have to single out guys that you don't like, and then when you're wrong, and you have to accept that. So we'll get to that with Justin Herbert because I talked my foot in the ground that he was not an NFL player. Second round pick. I thought he was gonna be a second round pick. We'll get to all of that later. But for today, that'll do it. We will recap this in a year's time. We'll see how these players are shaping out, how they're doing after year one. We'll see where we were absolutely garbage, and then we'll see that we're absolutely right on Tyrese Halliburton. But for now, that'll be it. Thank you for watching. This has been the Triple Threat Podcast. Take care.